Welcome. Once more, we reflect on the gospel of the day, which is taken from St. Luke. Jesus said to his disciples, "As it was in the days of Noah, so will it be in the days of the Son of Man." They were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage up to the day that Noah entered the ark, and the flood came and destroyed them all. Similarly, as it was in the days of Lot, they were eating and drinking, buying and selling, planting, building. On that day, when Lot left Sodom, fire and brimstone rained down from the sky to destroy them all. So will it be on the day of the Son of Man is revealed. On that day, someone who is on the housetop and whose belongings are in the house must not go down to get them. And likewise, one in the field must not return to what was left behind. Remember the wife of Lot. Whoever seeks to preserve his life will lose it, but whoever loses it will save it. I tell you, on that night, there will be two people in one bed. One will be taken and the other left. And there will be two women grinding meal together. One will be taken and the other left. They said to him in reply, "Where, Lord?" He said to them, "Where the body is, there also the vultures will gather." The gospel of the Lord. This gospel talking about, I think, realities as opposed to fantasies. Maybe that's a good way to frame the gospel. It reminded me of my own childhood, in a sense. We were brought up with fairy tales, maybe before going to bed at night. Or in my day, you listened to the radio, and there were all sorts of programs. But in the midst of it, I remember on Saturday morning, I think 11 o'clock, there was a program called Let's Pretend. And it was, I could sing the introductory song, but I don't think you're ready for that. But the point is, it was every Saturday, and it was about some sort of fairy tale. Or there were movies. Even Disney in those days was around, I should say. Today, I'm not sure, but I think the same pattern is there. It may be TV, it may be some other way of communicating in modern technology, but there are fairy tales. And the key is that there's a beginning, there's a crisis, then there's a resolution, and most important, there's a happy ever after ending. And the good conquer, the evil are punished. And yet this gospel almost contradicts that. Two people standing side by side. One will survive whatever the crisis, the other will not. That kind of makes me think about my own life. Have I unconsciously taken fairy tales or let's pretend kind of endings and made it my reality? Some people go through life not with fairy tales, but with horror stories. Everything's a tragedy. There is no joy because I don't seem to get to the promised ending. I'm always suffering reversals. Some way it's a punishment. Some days it's injustice, and it is. And some days it just seems to be the way it is. I don't know an answer. But the fact of the matter is that what we profess to believe in Jesus, in his life, and we also believe in his death and his resurrection. We believe in that rhythm in our life. And the constancy in my life is not any fairy tale or make-believe, but something I believe in, or perhaps better said, someone. That God walks with me, that getting through life, in a good sense of that word, living each day, knowing that I'm loved, knowing that God is there, knowing that there's something beyond me that is the focus, the origin, and the reason for my life. That makes all the difference in the world. It means that I go through the rhythm of life and death and resurrection, perhaps every day, but knowing that there's hope, that there's new life, even though everything seems to be negative at a given moment. That's not making a different fairy tale. That's something, if I stop and reflect, is true. I may never get out of a particular situation. It may be the way my life is. People suffering illness, people who have adversities and reversals that seem to go on and on. But then you look at people with that kind of experience, and sometimes you see joy, you see hope, you see strength, because they believe. So often we look at the news and we see all the tragedies that happen. But there's the good stories, the happy stories, if you will, where people do extraordinary things facing great adversity because they have hope, they have faith, they believe in a God who is mysterious, whose life and creation in life has so much majesty and beauty, and at the same time, I find confusion, I find mystery. That rhythm of life and death and resurrection simply means I'm not living for the happy ever after ending in my daily life, but what I'm living for is a God who tells me that love is the key, that if I live each day, indeed, if possible, each moment, conscious of his presence, no matter what the surroundings are, no matter whether things are going well or not, that in the midst of it all, that my purpose is not found in those moments, but in the God who is discovered in me and in the people who surround me. It makes all the difference in the world, in a sense. It doesn't change the fairy tale concept. My life is not some sort of challenge or crisis and then resolution all done in an hour with commercials. But rather my life is moment to moment, day to day, living the mystery, grateful for what I have. And when I'm experiencing adversity, having hope and perseverance, embracing the cross as I experience it, not in some sort of subjective way, but rather as someone who knows that I'm not alone, that I believe in a God who is love. I believe in a God who's lived this experience in Jesus, who has gone through what I'm going through, and who promises me, if I'm faithful, that there'll be new life. That's what resurrection is for me each day. I get up realizing God is there, try to live each moment with that kind of hope and conviction, and then leave the rest in God's hands. We hope your day is safe, that you continue to pray for one another, and that we continue to face these reversals that we're experiencing in our world with confidence and faith in resurrection.